It's a new era for the FAU Owls, and Zach Kittley has a lot of work to do. Not only does he have to turn around this program, but he has to prove that he can run a program, that he can be a head coach, and there's a lot of things that needs to be done for this team, but it's going to be a really exciting time. Today, we take a look at the top 10 players for FAU in 2025, as well as look at the schedule and see what we should expect from this team. We'll start with QB1. Caden Velkamp comes in from Western Kentucky, and you feel like they're in a really good place to bring in a guy that fits this system so well. And Kittley has that offense that Velkamp is going to thrive in, and had a big year, 3,100 yards, 25 touchdowns for Western Kentucky. And this is an offense that needs to get better throwing the football. They finished 91st last year, and that's an area where they really want to improve upon. This was not a good year for FAU offensively, and you feel like there were some missed opportunities because of that. Velkamp comes in, and you feel like you have a good base for what you can improve upon, especially throwing the football, and it's just going to come down to who he throws to. Another transfer that comes in, this time from Ohio, is CJ Doggett. Getting to the quarterback was something that FAU did not do very well last year. They finished 97th in sacks, and they were not disruptive really at all. They also finished 116th in tackles for loss. CJ Doggett is going to be a big reason why they improved. 32 tackles, 7 tackles for loss, 3 sacks. Again, this defensive line lost quite a bit of talent, so bringing in a guy like him is only going to make things better. We talked about who Caden Velkamp is going to throw to, and it's actually his former teammate, Easton Messer, who also comes in from Western Kentucky. 55 catches last year, 793 yards, 4 touchdowns. He's probably going to be the go-to guy early on because he's familiar with this system. He's familiar with his quarterback. He knows what his quarterback is looking for. His quarterback also knows what he's going to do. That's the connection that gives you a little bit of an advantage coming into a new team. And Easton Messer is a really fun player to watch. Average over 14 yards per catch, so you feel like there's a little bit of explosiveness to his game, and that's going to help this offense tremendously. Before we continue with the video, make sure you subscribe to the channel and take a look. It takes a couple of seconds. It helps the channel grow. We've seen tremendous growth in the last couple of years, and we'd like to keep that going. Doing a giveaway at 10,000 subscribers, so we're hoping to hit that goal this year, and you make that happen. But let's get back to the video. Another wide receiver that will be really fun to watch in this offense, Jabari Smith. 17 catches, 296 yards. He averaged 17 yards per catch. So that's a guy who could be a field stretcher. He can stretch the field vertically. He can open things up for Easton Messer and vice versa. They feel like they have a good duo coming into this season, and they have the right quarterback to hit those guys downfield. Now, the defense also has plenty of work to do, but they bring back a couple of really interesting players. Wendell Fillard is one of those guys that has a little bit of everything in him. 42 tackles, 6 tackles for loss. You feel like he has the ability to play near the line of scrimmage, has the ability to make an impact on any game that he plays in, and playing in the nickelback position, you feel like that's a great place for him. But again, there's a lot of work to do. It's not just up to him. There's plenty of work to do up front. The front seven has quite a bit of work to do, but the secondary has a couple players coming back that you feel really excited about. Just because they're going to throw the football quite a bit doesn't mean the rushing attack is going to go away. And this is a group that finished 30th running last year. Xavier Terrell comes in, only played 7 games last year, but he gets to take on a bigger role. 261 yards on 14 carries, which seems wrong, but he averaged 18.6 yards per carry. Obviously not a sustainable rate, but it speaks to his explosive abilities. Only 14 carries. You'd like to obviously see a bigger sample size, but he's going to get an opportunity, and explosive plays are going to help this team tremendously. Zach Kittley's offenses have been really explosive in the past, and a guy like Terrell could open things up for the rushing attack. Going back to the secondary, Jaden Williams is a guy who didn't have the greatest production, but a guy with a ton of potential. 26 tackles, 2 interceptions, 1 fumble recovery. This defense, if it can get better in small ways, it's going to have bigger results in the long run. And the secondary has a lot of work to do. The secondary does return probably the most experience of any of the 3 levels, but there's definitely still work to be done. And Jaden Williams is a really nice player to have back. He gives you that continuity from the previous staff, and can get some of the new guys up to speed of where everything is. And part of it we don't really talk about is some of these guys are coming in for the transfer portal. They have to find their way around campus. They have to find where the practice facilities are. And so kind of an underrated part is having some of those guys back to just get everybody acquainted quicker, because those minor things don't seem like a big deal. But if you don't have to worry about those things, you can get to the rebuild a lot quicker. Ajon Barber is an interesting player, comes in from Coastal Carolina, only had 22 tackles last year, 2 tackles for loss, but plays on the interior defensive line, so you don't really want to look too much into the stats. The stats are going to be kind of misleading, and it's really going to be interesting to see how he fits in the AAC. Came from the FCS level before he went to Coastal Carolina, and now he comes to the AAC. And again, the defensive line is something that this group and Zach Kittley need to figure out. Defensive coordinator Brett Dewhurst has work to do, but he has some interesting pieces coming in that can make things better. Madden Sanker is an interesting player for this team because while he does not have any game experience, he is someone that has been relatively coveted in the transfer portal and a really interesting player that a lot of people really like. He's someone that is going to have to step up in a big way. There's a lot of need for the offensive line to get better for FAU. They need new players, and Madden Sanker could be one of those guys that steps up. Another player on the defense side of the ball that can help this defensive line, Deshaun Batiste, comes from Tulane. And while he doesn't have the greatest production with just 10 tackles and 3 tackles for loss, the fact that he produced for a John Summerall defense speaks to his abilities. And the fact that he did that much in what was, I think that defensive line had plenty of talent. So the fact that he was able to crack into that rotation speaks to his talent, speaks to his abilities. Now he comes to a team that was 97th in sacks last year and needs to get better in that regard. He is someone that is looking for a new opportunity. He gets one at FAU, and now he's hoping to make himself a well-known name. There's not an over-under currently set that I could find, so I set it at 5.5. Maybe that's a little bit ambitious, especially after a 3-9 season. But when you look at what this schedule looks like, there are winnable games on this schedule, and you feel like Zach Kittley's offense alone could help them win games. At Maryland's a tough way to start, but then you get Florida A&M and at FIU, so you feel like you're going to be 2-1 at that point. The Memphis game is going to be very difficult, plain and simple. That's not going to be an easy game, but Memphis is kind of going through a rebuild. They're bringing in a ton of talent, so it's not going to be easy, but that could be a game. Maybe you surprise some people. I don't know. Rice and UAB probably should be wins if you're FAU, unless UAB is magically better. Rice is always kind of a wild card. At USF and at Navy are going to be really tough, plain and simple. That's not going to be an easy stretch. Those are probably 2 losses for teams that are going to compete for an AAC title this year. Tulsa's another team going through a rebuild, but you feel like FAU is in a better place than they are. At Tulane will be tough, even with the amount of turnover they have on the roster. UConn and ECU will also be interesting. Those are tough ways to end. I put the ceiling at 7-5. If this team truly is better than we expect, then 7-5 is definitely realistic. But also 3-9. There's plenty of talent that needs to get replaced, especially in the trenches. That's going to be difficult, and Zach Kittley has a lot of work to do. But the fact that you have a new coach gives you new optimism, gives you a reason to believe, and gives him a way to put his touches on this program. He is someone that is going to look to make things his own, and he's going to have time to figure things out. And maybe he gets rid of completely everything from the previous regime. Maybe he incorporates some of that stuff, but it's a reset of the timeline, and that's exactly what FAU needs this year.